Welcome to the Humanist Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Stearns. Join us on a journey where we unravel the intricacies of workplace dynamics. Hello, everybody, and either good morning or good evening, depending upon what side of this big, beautiful spinning ball you're on. My name is Ken Stearns. I'm the host of the Humanist Podcast, and it is really where we are kind of in pursuit of flourishing. And it's great because Allie Stark, my next guest, kind of sitting here. Hi, Allie. Hi, Allie.
Hi, Ken.
We were hanging out and talking, and she commented she loved the idea of in pursuit of flourishing, and really appreciate that because it did take some time to find the proper tagline for this, and the whole idea of the show really did come out from a company called Shape. Shape Powered is the website, and it's a company that does. It's an employee. It's really a data company, employee science data company, and they measure employee flourishing and how employees are doing at work, and the whole employee, the whole kind of package that shows up to work, and how work engages them, and how it's aligned with kind of who they are, and it's a great concept. And Allie and I were just talking about how the whole shift of consciousness seems to be happening, and not just this concept, but really kind of across humanity. A lot of big struggles, like big earthly, gigantic struggles happening, it feels like. And it's cool to be part of it. Allie, welcome to the Humanist.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I mean, I think that, your tagline brought me back to my graduate school and a couple of courses that I took when I was getting my master's degree like 15 years ago. One was, as I was sharing with you, the course was called Human Flourishing, and it was led by a man named Elliot Dasher, who was a physician and a philosopher and many things. He's around your age. And then another course I took, also a man around your age. So there was like something going on with that, of these sort of male models that were in my life. The other class was called Consciousness, Spirituality, and Healing. And they were just really kind of mind-bending courses of really looking at things through the lens of like living in uncertainty, asking questions, getting curious. And that is a part of this concept of awakening and flourishing, is really sort of sitting in the unknown, which, to bring it back to the comment you just made, is this moment that we're so acutely in right now.
It does feel like a lot more people are present, if you will, right? We're not.
Both. It's both. It's like lack of presence and then a lot more presence, I think.
Oh yeah, maybe that agitation of the two together. Yeah. A lot of unpresent people and a lot of present people.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's probably a really good articulation. I was sharing I have a couple of interns that help me out on these shows, and a couple of college kids, and it's great because I get to talk to got somebody in Ohio, somebody in California, and it's really great because I get to interact with young people, Gen Zs, and people just either in that right after graduation or during school, and so we always have a couple of little kind of conversations after the work stuff. And yesterday I was sharing with one of the interns who's graduated, and just kind of looking for something. And it is that she's in that space where she knows she doesn't want to go do what her parents did. She doesn't want to drive to an office, sit in an office like that. And so it's that trepidation of, I hope I don't have to surrender to that. And knowing that's not the way for her. And just kind of trying to find her path. And so we started talking. I said, well, you could look into helping me out with this other project. And took her down the flourishing rabbit hole yesterday. So it was really good. And I'm like, there's a school of flourishing at Harvard. Who would a year ago, I had no idea what flourishing was. And to find out that there's actually Harvard has an entire school around it. So to hear you were taking classes, still surprising. Like, I don't think many people know.
Yeah, I mean, if I can wax poetic about one of my professors for a second, because I had such a crush on this man. He was probably 55 years older than me, and so dapper. And he had just had this. I wonder if he's still alive today. I don't know. But he had this really prolific career. He was a heart surgeon, and then he became a depth psychologist, and then he became a professor. And I was always just so taken by, he would typically start our classes and he would read a song to us. So often it was a Jay-Z song, and he would read it like a poem. Or, he just sort of would start these classes in these amazing ways. And at the end of every class, he would play a harmonica, and he would say that he was blowing us a blessing for the rest of the day. And the amount of curiosity that this elder man had was so profound to me. And it was part of why, it's like attraction is so much about energy. And this man exuded this very vital energy. He must have been almost 90 when he was my professor.
Wow.
Yeah, mid 80s is my guess. And I don't know. I just think that I was really lucky at a young age to be exposed to a lot of kind of awakening versions of consciousness. But I do think that it's more prevalent. Younger generations most certainly are opening up to it. We're a much more therapized, aware culture in many ways. And it's so exciting because the world needs it more than ever now.
Yeah. Tell us about what you're doing now. Founder of ASW, co-founder of Noria.
It's Noria, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have two separate businesses. I have a coaching and consulting practice. I have a team of 5 incredible coaches that work for me. Wow. And that's Allie Stark Wellness. And we offer mostly bespoke one-on-one services to a gamut of life and leadership coaching needs. So much of what we do is it's like this bridge between soul and strategy. So oftentimes it's working with business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and really helping them to grow and scale heart-forward businesses, amongst other things. We work with career transitions or life transitions, relationship stuff, but oftentimes we're in kind of that leadership space.
Yes. Okay.
And then Noria is a larger scale online learning platform, and it's also for leaders and managers and entrepreneurs. But we've created a framework and an online and live course that you work your way through that is really about awakening consciousness through the lens of leadership. And we're kind of like, I always am like curious about the words I choose to use to describe it, but a lot of it is really about like being quite counterculture and teaching people how to manage their energy, how to slow down, and that actually part of that cycle of sort of moving in a different way and out of busyness culture actually propels you forward. It's just counter to how our culture is currently operating.
I agree. I think this helping the human, sometimes you tend to, I'm going to make sure I articulate this the right way. We have the work things we're supposed to be doing, the career things we're supposed to be doing. And you think that's where you want to put the hammer and the chisel. And it's probably, that's the easy part. It's the stuff around it that you need to kind of prepare, the preparation maybe, or the whole, or the bigger picture. I'm not sure I can really articulate it very well, but it seems like we sometimes focus on the wrong parts.
Yeah, I agree with
energy on that, and try to free it up by doing the other thing.
I mean, we love to feel productive around really tangible things.
Yeah. Yes.
We like to skill build, and we're a highly overly intellectualized culture. And so I think that this is prevalent, across the world. I was just speaking with a lovely founder today in London, and it was like, she's across the pond from where I live, but the problems are all the same. And, I think that part of what this awakening is it's almost just about remembering. It's like remembering that we have bodies, remembering that we used to like work and live in communities, Remember that like tending to the land in whatever way that looks matters, because it's what sustains and nourishes us. So it's funny because it's like become complicated because we've moved so far away from it, but it's so primal. It's just like these old concepts of drink water, eat good foods, be kind to your neighbor, use your body. So I think that we've sort of forgotten the importance of slowing things down and being really present with the environment around us.
What's it like taking a client? I mean, do you have, I'm trying to think of the kind of client that's going to come to you. Are they already a little bit awake,
Yes.
or are they curious? And
They're
have you
already
had one?
awake.
You'll have a range, right? But so maybe tell us, like, okay, you've got two. You've got the client who's pretty curious, pretty aware, done some, and kind of wants to be held, wants her hand held over the bridge.
Yep.
And then there's somebody that you've got who doesn't even know there's another side, but just knows something's not working.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I would say that it is rare at this point, like this intersection of my career. Actually, let me back that up. Yes, I think it's both. It depends. I think people who are investing in oftentimes one-on-one stuff, which is maybe a little bit of a higher price point than taking a course, those people already have opened the door. There's already some awakening that's taken place.
Yeah.
You know, and I always tell people, it's like, if you want a super wooey coach, our team is not the right for you. It's like we have our feet on the ground. But if you want an executive coach, we're also not the right ones for you. It's like we're really I like to bridge people from awareness into action. So growing that awakening and then having them act on it. You know, and then I'm just thinking about, you know, so many of the leaders that have gone through the Noria program, there is a little bit more of that deer in the headlight kind of experience as we're teaching, of like, oh my God, what are you talking about? You're kind of bending my mind a little bit. So it is both. And I think that I just think it's so amazing. It's like on the path of personal development and growth, it's never ending. And it's so cool to meet people at different stages of their growth.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. This growth spectrum. I did 330 interviews across the U.S. when I took a break from corporate with the jar. So I traveled around the U.S. and had this big jar of questions, and the same questions, and you know, put these big jar of 400 questions, put it in front of people, and hear different people interact with the concept first off, and then how they would interpret the questions. And it was really very plain questions, deep, but very straightforward. And the interpretations, even though there's just, you know, sometimes 4 words on a card, the interpretations were wild. And how people would peel that back. And you could see there are people who just very black and white, very straight approach to the question. It didn't mean anything more than it said. And that was it. And the depth of how far they could stretch outside of that zone was there, and it was obvious. And the whole concept for them, the whole interaction was like that. Very good interviews, got to know the person very well. And then there were people who really took the questions, took a deep breath, and you could see them exploring what it meant to them internally, you know, and just bend the questions. And my mind, some people really blew my mind. I was like, I wrote that question and it doesn't mean that, but holy, you know, to me.
Yeah.
But holy cow, you've opened my eyes. Like, it does mean that, what you've said. And they'll go on and explain, you know, their interpretation and how it relates to their life. It's very interesting.
Well, I think what's so cool about it too is, you know, I think it's easy to sort of place maybe judgment, maybe that's the appropriate term, on like, you know, someone who's interpreting the question as very like logical and black and white is like less interesting, or maybe that's, you know, an initial place that I would go. But I think over time, what I've learned, and I have to kind of catch myself in this a lot, is like, wherever anyone is at, there's a place for them in the larger whole of human consciousness. And we need people, we need like the highly existential person and the person who's just like, I can answer this question in a yes or no response. Like, thank God there's both, because if we're only on one side of the spectrum, not only is that not dynamic, but I think that it can feel, it's like, it's too much of the same. So I just think it's so beautiful. It's like, it's why, you know, you just realize how little you know, because all of life is about how you interpret information and the perspective you have on it.
Yeah. And that was just a profound experience for me, writing the questions from my own shoes, right? My own space in life, my own spot in life. And I may look at the questions totally differently in 10 years. Certainly I look at them differently after everybody's gave me their own interpretation. But I was, you know, I had this journey, and I planned so visually, went through so many things that, you know, so many times that none of it was really new. Traveling, interviewing, everything was somewhat rehearsed in my mind. But the part that caught me off guard was people's interpretations of the words, and really blew me away the entire time. You know, just never knew what somebody would pull a card out and what would come of it.
Do you have an example of a question?
That huge. Yeah, I mean, so there were just 12 topics. Your yesterdays, today's, tomorrow's, love, forgiveness, acceptance, compassion. Those are just the topics. Let's see if I've got a card right here. This happens to be whatever card it is. How well do you know yourself?
Oh man, Ken, you're like asking the deepest of all of the questions.
Yeah, that happened to be the one I've got laying around. You know, how well, and this is that one perfect example of how deep people would really interest. Like, oh, I know myself pretty well, and that might be that might be where they're at. And there would be people who take a deep breath and 20. I had a perfect one. I had a good story around these questions and just in people's interpretations. I had taken a break for quite some time. I had a little bit of PTSD after interviewing about 150 people in close proximity. I'm not a therapist, but but all of a sudden I was one. So I had taken a break, and I had my first interview after about 2 or 3 months off, and I had some trepidation. Did I lose my curiosity? Because it was a heavy role in a way. This was kind of hard work. You know, hearing people's stories up close, personal, peeling that stuff back. And it's like, you know, I hope I haven't lost that curiosity. And so the first person I interviewed, and the first question, what is the color of your heart? Was his first question. And he took a deep breath. He's an Indian gentleman, very introspective, very spiritual. And he goes, yeah, and just, I knew I was off for a ride. He's like, let's talk about color. And he broke the question out into color, into heart physically, heart metaphorically.
Wow.
And it was a 20 minute answer.
Wow. It's a beautiful question.
Yeah, thanks. And the answer was beyond anything I could have ever imagined somebody sharing.
Yeah.
Super intelligent individual, super deep, and just like he went in for the second question, and I was like, oh, I'm so back. I love this, you know, because he just really lit the fire for me. So there are so many amazing humans out there on this level of awareness, really awake.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's fascinating to hear you talk about, you know, I spend so much of my career listening, you know, that's what I do as a coach.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've done it for a long time. So there are definitely times where you reach fatigue, whether it's compassion fatigue, or there's some boredom that shows up. Things will start to kind of all feel the same, or, you know, and I think that, I mean, of course, there's like taking time away to recharge and fill your well up. That's like a huge concept that we talk about at Noria, is of importance. But I think it's also just a reminder of like, always maintain this level of like being willing to be surprised. And I was just thinking about a session I had yesterday with this client of mine. And we've worked together for a couple of years, which sometimes is common, sometimes it's not. A coaching relationship can be 6 months or 12 months. This is a little longer. And this woman is just so good at, in real time, pausing our conversation, telling me how she's feeling, and changing the complete trajectory of the call. So I'll give you an example. She, came onto the call and it was like, I want to go through my branding assets and I want to look at the copy that I have written for the website, so I'm going to take her lead. It's like, okay, that's where we're going today.
Okay.
And I do a spectrum of stuff. Like, I'm happy to play that role.
Yes. Yeah.
And she kind of paused me in like the middle of it and was like, I normally have so much fun on our sessions and I'm not having a good time right now. And she was like, I feel like I'm powering through something. So it was like, okay, well, let's just like let's slow it all down a little bit. And, her response was just like, I think I felt like I needed to be really productive today, but I'm actually really tired. And I don't want to be productive with you. And then we just stretched for 20 minutes. Like, I led her through a, cycle of stretching. Many moons ago, I taught yoga for many years. And, all of a sudden we were like on a, after that, I had her go on a walk while we had a different conversation. And I was just like, damn, human beings are fascinating. They are so intuitive and wise when there's space for them to go there. And then you're just surprised. And it's so powerful.
It is that space, right? The breath, taking a breath. And I think the pause sometimes now is so much more powerful. I found when I was in a series of corporate jobs that were pretty maniacal and increasingly insane. And the last one, when it, kind of unwound like a rubber band does, just kind of snapped and broke. And it wasn't like a life thing. It was just the job, the corporate, that job unwound and ended up in a nice, calm place. Mm. And all of a sudden, so the corporate stuff was just consuming so much of my brain power and so much of my focus and energy. It was 24/7, basically 24/7 living in your head. You go to bed thinking about work, you wake up thinking about work, your emails, the appointments, things you have to do. And have that suddenly kind of coming out of warp speed, it's so interesting to see how much creativity and how much intuition is just below that surface for me. So I had some of my most powerful creative years and creative times were just right after all that slowed down. And being allowed to think and just slow down and be present, just the power of that. And so I just encourage anybody listening to, get that stuff out of your head somehow and take a break if you can and find that quiet space, whatever that looks like, and listen to that inner voice. It's there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's always, I think that we've forgotten a little bit that like, everything needs space. Emotions need space. Creativity needs space. Doing deep work needs space. Yes. We love a fast fix, and it's just not the reality of what life is. And it's so easy to be distracted because all of our devices are set up in a way to hook you. That's actually how they are designed. That is the user experience of them. And it takes a lot of discipline to, not do that. I was telling you, Ken, that my husband is currently in Africa.
Yes.
And I've just been noticing since he's been gone, I am married to someone who's like extremely present, very, very outdoors based, and quality time is his love language. So the way we spend time together is just often, pretty dropped in with one another. And since he's been gone, I'm just like on my shitty devices way more often. And, and it's like, it's like everyone needs kind of different accountability structures. Like, he doesn't need another human to hold him accountable. He's really good at just like doing the thing.
Dang him.
I know. I have always been accountable to other people. That's just how I operate. Like,
yes,
you want to get me up at 5:30 to go on a walk? I'm meeting a friend.
Yes.
So I've just been reflecting a little bit on that and I had a moment last night where I was like, that's it. There's no more television until he gets back in town. And it just, you feel like crap afterwards.
Yeah, there's nothing, there's nothing good on your phone. And I think, tell me about Noria. What is it? What's it? How did you get it started? A little bit about your co-founder, and what do people find there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking. So Noria was co-founded in the midst of the pandemic, like a lot of new business ideas came to be. My co-founder and I actually went to grad school together and then kind of have weaved in and out of one another's lives for a long period of time. Her name is Sean Casey. And she worked for many, many years for a primary care institution that was actually purchased by Amazon in the last few years. But she created their health coaching and care navigation program. So after grad school, we kind of went different routes. She went into corporate and was sort of building teams, and I went on a more entrepreneurial path. Anyway, so in the pandemic, I was hired by her to start to create a certified health coaching program that would be housed internally at her corporation, so that they would train physicians or nurse practitioners or whatever. And as we were doing it, we were like, this is what leaders need. Like, there's a new era of work that's happening, and we need to skill leaders in these approaches. And also, I think that we were adjusting our teaching a little bit to be a little more corporate, because I was being paid by a corporation to build out this course. And so that was sort of like the impetus, was like, how do we teach a course that is rooted in coaching principles and in nervous system regulation? So it's really an inside out course. It starts about the self and waking up to yourself. It then goes into environments and one-on-one relationships, belonging, team dynamics, and meaning and purpose. It kind of builds, it's this arc of this experience. And the whole point is really that you are awakening yourself as a leader through certain practices, and then you're supporting your team to do the same. So the word Noria, or the name Noria, Noria are actually these ancient water wheels, and they would pull water up from the surrounding, I want to say terrestries, but that's not the right word, like a riverbank, et cetera. And they would then distribute this water going through the wheel to the local community, and then the local community would give back to the land that then supports the water. So it's this whole concept of like being in reciprocal relationship. I could say the feminine economy, generosity. It's all about when you awaken yourself, which is all you really have control over. You awaken the people around you, and that creates a ripple effect.
This part of us trying to awaken ourselves or improve ourselves, I think maybe it starts off with, you think you want to improve yourself, and then you find out you're awakening, right? I think it is kind of this, you're not sure what it is when you're in this kind of growth phase. For me, I had no idea, what it was. Well, I thought I was awake. I thought I was awake till I found out I was asleep. Does that happen? Do you have clients like me? That think they're awake, think they're a little bit more aware, and only to find out that maybe you're not that far along the scale.
It's funny, what's coming to me is like, I think I think if you like really staunchly think you're awake, you're most likely asleep. And if you're actually awake, you realize how little you know. I think that the process of awakening is this deeply humbling space of recognizing, to go back to your initial question, which was like, how well do you know yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, my hope is I never fully know myself, that there's this like endless unfolding of like, oh my God, I'm in a new environment and I become like, there's something else I learn about myself, or I'm challenged in this new, unique way, and a different part of my personality arises. So I think the more awake you are, the more you would not admit that you are awake.
That
Does
is
that
so
make sense? Does that
beautiful.
make sense?
No, absolutely. Because I think you do. There used to be an article I held on to it when I was in sales. Something I would read periodically and remind myself. It was called Peak to Peak, and it was just the concept of when you're climbing and you get to you see this peak in front of you and you're climbing on it, and it's a metaphorically, and you get to the top only to realize there's actually another mountain behind that one.
Yeah.
And that's the awakening, the awareness that, only from here can I see there's another peak.
Well,
Only
thank
from here
God. Otherwise, life's so boring, you know? I mean, I don't know. I'm someone who
yeah, life is boring.
I
Yeah,
love,
life is not boring. No,
you
for
know,
sure. It's as boring as you want it to be.
it's as boring as you want it to be. And I think, I'm someone who I really like new experiences and I really like novelty. And I think some of that comes from just like this acute curiosity for me to continue to grow. And the more I'm kind of I don't know, it's like when you're in some discomfort and you're kind of like exposed to new parts of yourself, you're just like, wow, the world is endless. I mean, you're living in Vietnam right now, it's like there's this whole part of being in a different culture and being an expat and different cultural norms and a language. And I mean, it's so you realize how small you are.
Oh yeah. And how often you have to just let some stuff go, right? Some stuff you can control. There's stuff I just have stuff I have zero control over, and that's okay. And just go with so much more going with the flow. And I think it's really good for me being here, living here, working here for 20 years, taking a break, doing the jar trip, and kind of being awakened a little bit, or at least at least I'm at the molehill now. I can see over the mole. I can see the next hill, but realizing what matters and what doesn't matter, and trying to not control things that don't matter, or not try to control anything, and really patience to let things unfold is probably one of the biggest. I think if you want to find that flourishing state, you want to be in a great peaceful place, or where being patient. And I was an impatient person, pushing. I want to like your client. I want to get something done today. I want to accomplish something. And boy, sometimes you're pushing a rock up a hill and people are throwing stones at you while you're doing it. And you think you're doing the right thing. And you're wondering, why isn't anybody helping me push the rock up the hill? And they're throwing stones at me.
Yeah.
And it's probably like you're probably behind the wrong rock, or you're supposed to keep walking and wait for the right rock you just have to push downhill.
Yeah.
And it's that, I think, is really one of the hardest things, was one of the hardest things for me to get my head around, and still to this day find myself pushing some stuff along for the sake of feeling like I'm doing stuff, and not being patient to let the right thing come along. Or I don't want to say you wait for something, because you have to have action. You've got to be stirring the pot or creating that electricity. But it's really, I still haven't figured the formula out, Allie. It's still escaping me.
I mean, I don't have any good answers for that. I'm like, there's a reason why they say patience is a virtue, I think
yes.
It's funny. I was just thinking about, so I told you, Ken, I'm about 6 months pregnant. And I have been feeling a little bit restless recently. Yep. And, normally in this state, I would book a trip I would just change stuff up.
Yes.
And I'm kind of broaching that part where it's like, actually, it's kind of uncomfortable to travel, and I don't want to not, it's like, there's all this stuff that's coming up around it. And I reached out to a girlfriend, and I was just saying, I'm just noticing, I'm feeling there's some impatience that's arising in me, especially because this is such a ginormous life transition and transformation and whatnot.
Yes.
I think there's this part of me that kind of wants to know what it'll be like on the other side, which is not how that's going to go. And what she responded to me is what do you think the baby in your belly is asking of you right now? And without
my God.
Yeah, without hesitation, I was like, oh, he's asking me to be patient. And and again, the person that I'm married to is a very slow decision maker, thoughtful. I
Oh,
mean, we're
yes.
very hugely different, and I'm much more impulsive and quick, and and I was just like, oh, I've got some of that energy in me. That's like, slow yourself down.
It's
You're
just,
not, yeah. So I don't know. Patience is a hard one. I would imagine it takes many lifetimes to learn. Measure your growth and success in the micro changes, not the macro changes in that realm.
one of the I taken a after the jar had finished, took a break, and I ended up at my daughter's house. Um, she lives in the Pacific Northwest, and hanging out with her and the kids, three grandkids, and the grandson. And this guy's he's about 1 year old during this time, and his new fascination was basketball. His dad loves basketball, plays it, does the boys' nights, and watches all the games. And this guy's just got his own little mini basketball, and he was walking, barely walking, and he would pick it up and drop it with the expectation it was gonna bounce back up and he was gonna catch it. And he would just work relentlessly, drop it, and kind of like willing it to come up, and smile on his face. He'd bend over, grab it, drop it, walk, chase it, pick it up. And just watching it, I'm going, oh my God, this is like the definition of commitment. And this guy is not failing in his own mind. None of this is failing. None of this is a mistake. There are no mistakes. I'm not failing. It's a micro change. I'm walking better every time. The ball's bouncing higher. I'm getting it faster. Like, I've
Amazing.
got stronger hands. Like, everything, the fibers in his fingers, the strength, it's all. And he was totally happy, just failing for hours every day. I was there for a couple of weeks. Now I bet he's probably bouncing the ball now, but for him, there was no. He was just present. He was enjoying it, and he wasn't failing. He was improving.
I mean, when you see people who are just like, they got all the time and
he had all the time in the world.
It's so amazing. It's so that I was very humbled when I moved from California to Colorado to like really be exposed to some serious mountain people.
Oh.
I'm an ocean.
They're a different breed.
I'm an ocean person, and I remember there was this one time. We've now made it this annual trip, but we do this cross country ski out to a hut, and it's about 2 hours from Denver, which is where I live, and there's, like a safety guy who's giving you the whole spiel on what to do and how to get there and blah, 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 blah. And, I just was like, oh my God, this guy has all the time in the world. Like, this talk could take 10 minutes and we have been here for 90 minutes and we're all like lounging with hot chocolate and there's a fire. He just had nowhere else to be. And it was just so like, well, this is rad. We're so like, come on, like, let's just get to the point.
Yeah.
And he was just like, let's slow everything down and you're going to get to know me. And do you have questions? And I have all the time in the world for you. And I remember just being like, this guy's got it figured out. Like, this guy is a sage human. He's got it figured out.
Do you ever find it's hard to go back and forth between that managing a business and trying to be who you want to be? Because there's times emails are coming in, bills got to get paid, you got to have a meeting. I mean, there's still you are your own client in a way sometimes, or a reflection of your clients.
Yeah, I feel like I don't struggle to feel like who I am in my personal life and who I am professionally and who I am on this podcast. It's all the same. It's
same. The same.
Yeah. I feel like you don't get any. I am who I am. Who I am. I do struggle a little bit of just the demands of modern society. And, I think it's really easy, and I'm so guilty of this, where it's like not only trapped in the productivity, it's like trapped in the self-importance that what you're doing matters so much.
Oh, come on.
And
Oh,
I feel like, and I feel like I do meaningful work. Like I feel
yeah.
really aligned with my purpose. And if I didn't do it, would the world keep on spinning? Yep. Yes, it would. And so I think there's a little bit of just addiction to like the pace at which we orient, which kind of helps us build, an over identification with like what we do is who we
Mm,
are. I struggle with that stuff. And just feeling like, God, it'd be great to work 20 hours a week. It'd be great to have more time to take care of my body and more time,
mhm.
I can struggle a little bit with that. And I think we all struggle with that. It's like, you go spend a little time in Europe, or I'm curious what it's like, your experience of working. You're just like, a lot of places you go, you're like, oh my God, I can exhale. It's a little different. It's happening differently.
Mm. Yeah, Asia's fun in that, and I think maybe the states are similar. I like were saying before, everywhere's really quite similar when you when you get down to the people side of it, right? When you boil it down to the humans are the same.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Yeah, when you get it down to the humans are the same and want the same things and need the same things. Um, but there is here in the city, when you're in the cities, I'm in Ho Chi Minh City, and
Mhm.
the city is a bit frantic.
Yep.
People come to the city to make money. They're here to
Yep.
make money. And
Yep.
it's got that good Asian culture of making money, getting better. And it's Vietnam's time. It's a younger,
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
younger in that it's just opened up really to commercialism.
Yep.
That was after the Vietnam War, it was closed off quite a bit. And so and it was in a resting state, and now it's lit on fire with capitalism and consumerism, and everybody wants to make their money, and China's just over the border, and China just experienced a bananas, and still is just driven by things and money and power and success and rewards. But as soon as you go 15 minutes outside the city,
Yeah.
people have chickens, bananas, trees in their backyard. They walk around in their flip flops, and I mean, even here, people still walk around in their flip flops and just don't care. It's just so there's a pace still. The undertow is slow down. I think that the the frantic achieve more, get more, move faster feels very inauthentic for the area. The culture is still very much rooted in base and just farmland and be a good human and slow down and enjoy life and live off nature. That's the real undertow is there. This part feels a little bit manufactured.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually am someone who really needs both. If I were just in like the pastoral, I would get itchy. I need some kind of like weird, buzzy, cultural, artistic injection. But when I'm overstimulated in that, I get really burnt out.
uh,
So it's
yeah.
just, everyone's so different. I feel like I can feed off of both of those
Mm.
vibrations a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe that's one of the things that does kind of keep me attracted here is the slow pace, and then the fast pace too. They're famous Vietnam, especially in Ho Chi Minh, all over the country. These coffee shops, coffee is a big culture, and
Mm,
it's really not a coffee culture. It's a cafe culture,
yeah.
and they just got places where there's just chairs and people just sit around and just talk, and just that's all they do. And one of the other kind of favorite things they've got is these just on the sides of the roads, kind of the more kind of on the big highway, on the big main roads going north and south, and all these other little roads. You'll have these little hammock culture spots where people just
Yeah,
pull up on their bikes
I
and they've
remember
got
that. I remember that
right,
sitting there.
right, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
yeah, you just got 20 hammocks set up. People just go and chill or have a nap, or just stay inactive in the hot part of the day. So it's it's still holding on to that part of the culture of just kind of be present.
Yeah.
And I do love that. I do love that part of the Asian culture, at least agricultural environments. And I
Yeah.
think that's
That makes
probably
sense.
the real. Well, kind of how do people find you? And kind of maybe any kind of other thoughts on, what you're working on, and where you're headed, and how do people engage?
Yeah. So if you're looking for a more individualized, personalized experience, a more one-on-one sort of feedback loop, you can find me at alliestarkwellness.com. So that's ALLIESTARK wellness.com. And we support all different types of people, but it's definitely, through a process of conscious awakening, whether that's in leadership or a life transition, relationships, etc. And you can find my business Noria at hellonoria.com. That's HELLO Noria.com. It's so funny as I'm saying that, I'm like, is that the website? Am I having a moment?
You could be having a senior moment.
Hold on. I was right. You know what? I have these moments when I'm pregnant where I just like black out on a detail, and then I was right though. So I'm going to give myself a break. So it's Hello Noria. Noria spelled NORIA.com. And we are regularly enrolling people in our program. It's an ongoing enrolling process. And you get access to the course for a year, which is online. And you also get access to live community, Q&As, workshops, etc. So you can find us online there.
Allie, amazing. You're really an amazing human. You look extremely young, but you've got some kind of, ancient soul. Seems like you found it, which is beautiful.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to connect with you.
And of all the conversation, that one kind of comment sticks out for me, which is your friend asking you, what is your baby saying to you?
I know that was some trippy stuff. That was some trip. I was like, whoa. And this is how the journey of motherhood begins.
What is it? The children choose us. I don't know if you've heard this saying before.
Yeah, I have.
That they choose us to teach us a lesson, that they come here. We're not born into somebody. We actually choose who we're born into. We choose our assignment. We accept it. And I've heard different iterations, but I like the one where actually the children are here to teach us something. And,
I've always, it's like an
powerful.
It's children don't come from us. They come through us.
Ooh.
That's always the one I've heard, which is like, you're not really a part of it. You're just a conduit for it, which is,
ouch.
That's some crazy, tricky stuff. But
I would like to object to that version.
I'll take it. I'm so curious to meet this tiny human who is coming through me. So,
Very. Yeah. So that one last kind of comment. Over time, things happen to people, right? We always kind of the analogy is, why does this happen to me? And why does this, why does this always happen to me? Or why is this happening to me? And over time, of course, I figured out that it's not happening to you. It's happening for you. The old adage, right? I kind of finally accepted that. And, it is happening for you. You look at so many bad, air quote, quotation, bad things that have happened in life for you, individually. Anybody listening can think of that. And they've turned out to actually be really good. Yeah, they've turned out to be good for you. And I even kind of put the extra one on there is they actually are happening through you. And that there's even a lesson. Sometimes it's not even the good for you, but it's actually the good of what people see, how you handle the situation or what you learn from it, and then how you can pass that learning on to others. So it's not even happening for you. It's actually happening through you. It is more power. It's even more powerful than just a lesson for you to learn or to take away. It's actually for others to see how you handle it and to show them how you've done it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Allie, awesome conversation. Thanks for everybody for listening and supporting the Humanist and the pursuit of flourishing. This is this is still the baby part of the project, and I'm, kind of super excited to keep it going. Allie, hang on one sec. I got a little outro somewhere, and then I'll see you on the other side. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to the Humanist Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Stearns. Join us on a journey where we unravel the intricacies of workplace dynamics.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. I tried to end it. I didn't quite end it. There we